Come, please sit.
Come, have a seat.
Look!
To Arya, Rajasthan seemed a bit like this.
Wow, we'll all fit? All of us?
Welcome back to the 14th Jaipur Literature Festival protected by Dettol. It's our pleasure to present today Experiencing the Goddess on the Trail of the Yoginis, Seema Kohli in conversation with Habiba Insaf with contributions from Anamika Roy, Stella Dupuis, Janet Chawla and Nilima Chitgopekar. Experiencing the Goddess is a book of essays that shares research, experiences, ideas and knowledge from studies and travels related to ancient sites where divine female energies dwell. In this session, Seema Kohli, who has contributed to the book, explores a vast range of themes surrounding rituals, scriptures, practices, and spiritual interpretations, and an alternative perspective on the aesthetic and philosophies guiding the Yoginis. To talk about their contributions, before that, please welcome Anamika Roy, Stella Dupuis, Janet Chawla and Nilima Chitgopekar.
64 Yoginis suggest some mysticism. They were the 64 attendants of the great goddess. They were the 64 forms of the great goddess. And they were the 64 embraces of Shiva to Parvati. Moreover, unconventional structure open to the sky Yogini temples, they invite more suggestions and they raise the question, why? It is an enigma to the art historians, to the worshippers, to the naive beholders. The book, it invites to explore more. What is Yogini? What is 64 Yoginis?
Hi, I'm Janet Chawla, and I'm a writer and researcher. So when I reread this book and my contribution in it, I couldn't believe that I had actually written it. And it was amazing that I had gone to all those places and that I had written this contribution to the book on the Yoginis.
The goddess is the theme that fascinated me since I was very young living in South America. And since I started to come to India, I became mesmerized by the expressions, the devotion that one can see and feel everywhere in this country. I wanted to share these experiences, and my friends, the other authors, helped me to accomplish this dream. Every chapter of the book takes the reader to diverse realms that we call the Trail of the Yoginis, the diversity in the unity.
So my chapter, my essay in the book is basically talking about how you can look at Chaucer Yoginis as sculptures, but you also can see and you can draw a parallel from how they have been described in a Puranic text. And so Puranic text is always considered the legitimate text, or it's always considered like the Brahminical text, and the Yoginis are considered tantric goddesses. So the fact that you can have the tantric goddesses represented in a Brahminic text, like the what I've talked about is the Lalita Sahasranama, which is a part of the Brahmanda Puran, and I have seen these long descriptions of the goddesses there, which appear to be Yoginis, and so I have drawn up. I've said that we can bring together the sculpture, that is the Yoginis from the temples, and we can bring together with the scripture, that is the Lalita Sahasranama, that is the 1,000 names of the goddess Parvati in the form of Lalita.
Thank you, Anamika Roy, Stella Dupuis, Janet Chawla and Nilima Chitgopekar for your brilliant conversation and contributing to this book. I'm now delighted to welcome Seema Kohli in a conversation with art historian Habiba Insaf. Seema Kohli is a multidisciplinary artist, a poet, a dreamer thriving on imagination, ideas, philosophies, narratives, oral histories, myths, and recreating these as images or words. Kohli has had over 32 solo shows, and she explores the themes of beauty, sensuality, and spirituality expressed through her works based on the concept of Hiranya Garbha, or the golden womb, from which we have all emerged, which is self-pervading, engulfs every single thing. In 2013, she self-published a compilation of verses, I Am, which was performed at TEDx Chennai. Her works have been shown at the collateral events of Kochi Biennale, Birthrights Collective, the Venice Biennale of Art and Architecture, among many others. Habiba Insaf is an art historian and an incoming doctoral student at Humboldt University, Berlin. Her research interest lies in the history of museums, in particular questions of display and representation in ethnographic museums. She has held awards and fellowships of the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, Singapore International Foundation, and the Prince Claus Fund. Please do remember to comment by typing it into the comment section below. Ladies and gentlemen, experiencing the goddess on the trail of the Yogini, Seema Kohli in conversation with Habiba Insaf. Seema, Habiba, over to you.
Hello, how are you all?
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be a part of JLF 2021, and I would like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone who's here with us for this virtual book launch. And yeah, I'm very excited, and I'm looking forward to my conversation with Seema Kohli.
Lovely. I'm as excited. I'm looking forward to this conversation and sharing the book with you all, our experiences. We are 5 authors of this book, Experiencing the Goddess, on the Yogini trail. We are all from different genres, but we have the same passion. We have the same passion towards the feminine, and we all have tried to express it in the way we feel closest to her. And I do hope you are able to get your hands on this book, and also through the conversations understand like what all we have done in this book.
Okay, so let's begin the conversation and try to learn more about the book. So as you said, there are 5 contributors, and each one of you come from a very diverse discipline and expertise. So as an artist, how do you approach the Yogini in your artworks?
See, for me, Yogini is an energy. For me, I see her as a conduit of that energy. And how do you express that conduit? Because I'm an image person, all my work is figurative. And how do I sort of put her into a form? The closest I see her as a feminine, and that's how I try to express her. And it is very important for me to give her a form if I need to express it without any words, without music, without any other sensibilities. So my expression becomes more of a figure. And it is a feminine figure because that is, I see her as a collaborator. I see her as something which sort of induces expansion. And how do you express inducing? How do you express collaboration? Like as a word, and then to give it a form, how I see her is as a feminine. And so all the figures, everything, whether they are trees, whether they are animals, whether they are, so they do, even the men become quite, they have a very feminine leaning in my works. In the physical aspect, and of course the other aspect also.
Interesting. So since about 3 decades, I think your work has primarily been an exploration and celebration of this female form. So can you tell us how and when did yoginis or goddesses or Shakti become your artistic muse?
For me, it was even before, I think, 3 decades. 3 decades, I think it sort of consolidified into this kind of a genre of Shakti. But before that, also, I was working on the idea of energy in a very different kind of a way. And how I got introduced to the goddess was very different, because in our home, in my family home, we belonged to Arya Samaj, which was no idols in the house. And we had, in fact, looking at Maya was something at the lower step, because Advait was sort of, that's what everyone believed in, and so did I. And I do also, it sort of carries on with me, but the love for the feminine grew probably because as I was growing, I think by 8, 9, something around that, all the qualities which I did not possess, probably, the strength and the confidence, and I think the whole demure was so beautiful when I saw her little sculpture on the banks of Ganges in Haridwar, and I was taken aback. And I think since that day, I was captivated by her, and I started to revere her. I started to pray to her. I didn't know what to pray. I had no the scriptural, or the bhajans or something. It was nothing like that. I just was in love with this form. This form who was seated on a lion, very gracefully, very composed, and in total control of herself and the lion itself. And I think that itself kept on growing. And over the years, it was much more, I wanted to understand. And my sources were either books or folklore from different people. I didn't get to hear much from my home or something, but I did try to acquire it from wherever I could possibly get because it was something that I can't say that I was possessed, but of course that was something which did grasp all my attention. And then later I wanted to, though I did my philosophy honors, but my interest in the goddess remained the same. And I started to express her in different forms, though they were not the traditional forms. They were the forms probably which I saw her in my personal capacity, and that I still try to do it. And I see her, I try to connect with her from the various narratives, various myths, various cultures, traditions. And of course, I'm taking the most out of the Tantra, which is also very close to me philosophically and also practically. I feel it is a very relevant science.
Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Can you elaborate a little bit more about your approach and the process that you use in bringing yoginis to life on your canvases? You mentioned a variety of sources that you use. So how does how do they come alive on the canvas?
So the whole manifestation of yogini which takes place on my canvases is through various sources. I like to research through various sources. It is not only the books, but it is also the music. It is also, various folklores, scriptures, hearsay also, and my own sense of imagination, which sort of combines, and my reverence towards it, creating my own rituals, of course, understanding the rituals which are already there, but I like to also do my own rituals as a practice for the past so many years. And I sometimes feel like a honey gatherer, as they say in Baul tradition, Madhukori, like you're gathering all the various information through so many sources, and what sort of gets onto my canvas or through my words is the essence of all that. And I really feel very grateful and humble about the fact that I've been able to do all this. Of course, travel also is something which I really do. And all of us, all four other authors, we have been traveling also. I've been traveling on my own also. But it is, a great privilege to have a company of your friends, authors, and researchers who are trying to do the same things in a very different way, in a different expression. And I travel also a lot to these sites, trying to absorb myself into these dead sites. And they're not only sometimes the Yogini sites or the Shakta sites, but they're also maybe on the banks of Ganges. What I found, I think, on the banks of Varanasi or Shivpuri, I don't think I have ever found that connect anywhere else. Even the sea, I think everywhere, she's everywhere. So it is just so wonderful.
Yeah, the use of the honey gatherer metaphor was lovely. So I want to ask you if you want to share a little bit about, your recent Yogini works that you had created, your sculptures, and you want to just take us through your process in that, so that we can understand your artistic interventions and your reimagination of traditional form and imagery.
Yeah, I, in fact, very recently had a very large exhibition and display of my Yoginis, which I did in sandstone. They were Chausat Yoginis, and it took me almost 8 years to do that work. How I started was because I started a body of etchings, which are also there in the book. And while I was doing the etchings, I traveled to Bhubaneswar. And when I was in one of the Yogini sites, I actually was inspired to do my own Yoginis. And I started to work on that, on the sculptures. And all I was doing was trying to create new sculptures, new Yoginis, because if you understand the idea of energy, which is constantly replenishing itself, constantly renewing itself, and constantly changing forms, and that's how we have so many forms of Yoginis in with different metaphors of animals, rivers, trees, everything. And that's what I started to express. And while I was working on that, I felt that I should also include the Yoginis from which I got inspired from. So there are about 32 Yoginis which are from the traditional forms, and there are 32 Yoginis which are from from my own drawings. And then, of course, there was a Gambhari word sculpture of Kali, which is huge. I think that till then I had not done another sculpture as large as that, which also took me about 8 years to make. Wow. It is about 12 feet high. And that also is where I have expressed her as not only a destroyer, she's a very benevolent energy. And for me, she's standing on sort of kickstarting a golden womb and holding the Kundalini in her hand. And in total control of herself. That is also on display in Sundar Nursery just now. And there were a few more things, a few more sculptures which I did in bronze, which were a part of the Saptamatrikas that I did about the Mahishasura and all. So they all expressing a certain aspect of energy. Because for me, energy is a form which I have which I've captivated in these images, right? But it is not only these images which are the form, which is a yogini, like it is all over. It is something which I've tried to capture and sort of put it together and express it. That's my expression. But what I believe in is not only these forms as, these images as yoginis. Yoginis are everywhere, as rivers, as mountains, as trees. So if we are revering the sculptures, we may as well rever the nature around us. It is as important as that, because they were just a manifestation of the aspects of nature, because that is where the energy resides, in human form, in animal form, in all the forms that are around us. It is not only just a manifestation in a certain image that I've created. So I like to connect with the spaces. That's the only reason why connecting with all the five senses is so very important to me. Because if I just, go through one, I read something and I express it, I'm not probably able to grasp. That is my, shortcoming. I like to imbibe these energies through all the senses, which are all around us, and then probably express it. And that's what I've tried to done in all these years. Some of these were expressed very recently, and I also express it through my own form, because I'm also a part of that extended format of energy. And so many times I have done experiential performances to express this in dominable form, And yes, I'm totally in awe of it.
So you mentioned that for you, yoginis symbolize positive procreation, creativity, right? It's a energy. So I wonder if your yoginis also at times feel fury. Are they also angry goddesses at times?
Of course. They're not only, they cannot be an angry goddess if they are in a form confined to a certain image. Of course, they would always have a form. But of course, we do have so many cyclones, we do have, and that is energy expressing itself, landslides, all these kind of floods, all these kind of things, they are energy expressing itself. It's nothing else but that. It is a very, very alive, it's not dormant, it is expressing itself. And it's for us to understand that language, to connect with that language, and probably understand what is this leveling going on and how is it expressing it.
Also want to know from you, in the Indian contemporary art space, in my understanding, you're one of the few artists who paints goddesses and who heavily references mythology. Do you at times find that your art gets labeled as religious art or as traditional art? Do you at times fear being typecast because of certain themes or motives that you use and the interpretations that might emerge from them, which may be different from the way you intend them?
Of course, that's always there, but that's the probably the risk that we all artists are taking most of the time. And I am referring. It is not that my references are not coming from there, but my expression is more unified. It is more towards the fact that I'm expressing a very universal, energy is universal. It is not confined to any specific part of it. We can express it differently. We can each culture, each tradition, each religion has a different expression to it, but it is universal. We cannot deny that. Nature is universal. It is all around us. It is energy. It is from where we have all sort of gathered, and we are a part of it, connected to it. We are as a whole. I like to express energy in a way that I see myself as a part of that minuscule, or probably a small, atom of that huge form of this goddess Kali, maybe, because that's what I remember the most. And we are all a part, connected together somewhere or the other. And wherever connection fails, of course, there is a problem. And I think we all understand that. We all know that.
Yeah. Also, in terms of viewers, I'm just trying to understand. So your artworks are figurative, but the ideas that they express are quite abstract, and they have a solid basis in religion and mythology. So does it matter to you that your viewer have a certain knowledge of these narratives and stories that you use in your art?
Not really, because that's the beauty of art, I think, because it's not something which is, it is heavily referenced, but it is a language that I use with my canvas. It is my coded language. It is, as we used to read as children, the secret language of children. So they used to have that separate ink over, where you can't read anything, but at the same time, it is a conversation. It is a conversation that I'm having with my canvas. But of course, the moment I'm putting it up on display, everyone is welcome to give their interpretation. And I'm very I think, because the whole idea is of connecting, the whole idea is of love, the whole idea is of flowing, the whole idea behind my work is collaborations, and sort of connecting, jodna. So that is what my whole till yet my work has been all about. And I love to hear the stories where people, my viewers, my collectors, my the people who are interested in my work, when they give me their stories, I have another narrative which is added to my work, and it becomes much larger than just my work. It is my work till the time it is in my studio, but it is it gains a much bigger meaning once it is it gets to people, and they interpret it in the way they want. Of course, I also tell my story. I also express it in words, but my best expression is my image.
Yeah, that's absolutely true what you talked about, just opening the interpretation to whoever wants to offer one. All right, so before we move on to the book reading, I just want to ask you last question. Would you want to share any forthcoming exhibition, show of yours, something that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I am heading for a midlife kind of retrospective, where I would be
Lovely.
showing my work since last 40 years, 35, 40 years. It's surprising that I still have them. That they are very safely, my childhood works when I was probably 20 or 18, and those works are still with me, and I would love to share those works, and that's what I'm heading at. And there is a book that we are doing with jackfruit, and I'm looking forward to that.
Wow. That sounds lovely to see a retrospective of 40 years of artwork.
Yes, I'm very,
It's
very
exciting.
excited about that. I had thought it to be done probably last year because I was turning 60, but last year is no year. So I'll be turning 60 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a gap year for everybody. You can just skip that.
Everyone, sure.
Yeah. All right. So let's, I would invite you now to read an excerpt from your book, Experiencing the Goddess. And in the meanwhile, if we can have the slideshow, the film play on.
So I'll be reading this from my book, from our book, A Conversation Within, A Conversation Without. Touching the hearth with the tip of my toe, I connect with you from my heart to your soul. I just take out the next one. So Saptamatrikas, who they say struck terror, venerated thus for their dangerous fecundity, their terrible wrath. Yet were they not simply fulfilling their destinies, being protective, nurturing? In their zeal, they came to be represented for their darker powers, venerated in temples, as goddesses to be appeased, associated with gods, either as their spouses or as their forms of energies. Female principles that have been ritualized, iconized, cherished, and feared. And so I undertake this journey. A parikrama, is it of self-realization? I empty myself to Maya. Maya captivating me, surprising me by my own responses to her different forms and manifestations. The more I understand her, the more I want to realize her. Maya, the illusion and the creator of illusion, I look within the womb to discover that which is outside. I become the womb. Armed with solace and caring, I am the earth, ancient, primeval, modern, and all-encompassing. So the world, all nature tells me, so it shall tell you. So this is another, I'm not reading any prose, I'm going through all the poetry that I find close to me. Khel. Am I a myth or a reality? Today's reality is tomorrow's myth. Tomorrow's myth is yesterday's reality. I weave a web of illusion. I entice, create desires. Am I? Am I terrible, a destroyer, a slayer of all that entangles into my web, licking the root of their desires, vanquishing it, bestowing freedom to all who dare to play with me? I'm Maya. The fire within is without. I am the creator and the destroyer. Come, play with me. Now, this is the story of mind. Mind, which is just a space, one thought born, one thought dead, like forms, birds, relationships, rising like a bubble gum in my mouth, ending right there. Convictions trained by time, swallowing them, vanquishing them, licking them, erasing them, Maya laughing, giving it yet another chance to play with her, enjoying this whole parody of blood, life, birth and death, and life again. And do I want to be liberated? Do I want to continue with this game? This is to the dreams. Do we need to purify our dreams? Does desire steal through our open, unexpected, and suspected doors while asleep? Is desire also a path to reach you, Kali? The red of your flowers flow in my veins as blood. Black of the night which you sail and slide is in the retina of my eyes. Your breath is the air that I breathe, Kali. You are the consciousness and the unconsciousness. Sarva Khalvitam Mayam. I changed it to this. Your touch celebrates everything. The future is surprise wound. The future is surprise wound. Pour me a dream, pour me a thought, pour me a feeling, pour me 100 emotions, pour me a song. Walking, running, jumping, riding, flying high, on those I reach you. You are within me. You are within me, so potent, so alive. Still, I leap out to reach you. I see you in many, in the dry leaves of the tree whose blood I've sucked, dull and colorless, in the gray waters floating with my greed, in the lifeless air which wanted to breathe that endless kiss of love of eternity. I dared you to give me. I will not let you breathe. I will not let you live. And I go to the last one. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Death is not a full stop. The energy does not stop flowing at that point. It recoups, reforms, and moves on. Its energy changing direction, cursing on again as a different form in different space. So I can go on and on, but I think I shall end it right here.
That was lovely. It was a lovely reading and great to end with such beautiful verses that you have written and to see it alongside your images as well. So that was a great experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being with us. And I do hope you're able to get this book and also read about the rest of the authors, Dr. Nilima Chitgopekar, Stella Dupuis, Dr. Anamika Roy, and Janet Chawla. So they're all with me while I'm talking to you here.
Thank you so much, everyone who was with us for this session and the book launch. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Seema. Thank you, Habiba, for that absolutely fascinating visual language. I mean, delving into the Yoginis, I must say, it's the most fascinating thing, and I'm going right out there to pick up your book, which all of you can do from Amazon even as we speak. We thank our celebration partners, Diageo, and thank you all for watching and being such a great audience. Please stay logged on, because you know we've got a whole 10 days of incredible sessions featuring a stellar list of speakers that have been specially curated for you. As you're aware, all of us have been decimated. I know it's been difficult, even where each of you are. But if you can reach out and contribute just a little bit and help us make the world a safer place, push back on hatred, and continue to bring a free flow of knowledge and ideas, we would love for you to support us at Teamwork Arts. any contribution is more than welcome. Please tweet using the hashtag Jaipur Literature Festival 2021 and our Twitter handle Jaipur Litfest. The festival is protected by Dettol. See you in the next session. 13 years of a tumultuous Jaipur Literature Festival filled with joy, with colour, with the vibrancy and the sheer love of knowledge and literature.
The Jaipur Literature Festival is actually, it's set a benchmark in terms of where Literature Fest ought to be.
लोगों को लगता है कि यहाँ आना और इस तरह से एक ऑथर को सुनने के लिए बहुत लोग घंटों खड़े रहते हैं, तो इससे पता चलता है कि अभी भी नॉलेज का जो चाहत है वो अभी ख़त्म नहीं हुई है.
We had glamour, we had fun, we had joy, we had anger, we had protest. What in the Sanskrit tradition is called the Navras, where every human emotion is reflected upon.
When I come to the Jaipur Literature Festival, I feel like I walked into a 3-star Michelin restaurant with absolutely no problem of bank balance. There's quality, there's quantity, and it's from all over the globe.
And then came the pandemic, which brought to a screeching halt the entire world. We decided that we wouldn't allow the pandemic to stop us in our tracks. And out of this was born JLF's Brave New World.
In these times during COVID, when we're all sitting at home, it's sort of like a ray of light that we get to watch these amazing sessions when we can't all be together. It certainly brightens up my evenings.
आज पेंडेमिक में हम डिजिटली जयपुर लिटरेचर फेस्टिवल कर रहे हैं और मुझे लगता है कि हमारे सामने श्रोता नहीं है, हम आपस में बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उस फील को, उस उमंग को महसूस कर सकते हैं कि हजारों लाखों लोग हमसे जुड़े हुए हैं, हमको सुन रहे हैं और कहीं ना कहीं कोई एक सार्थक हस्तक्षेप हो रहा है.
160 episodes later and 4.8 million views, people who came online to view and listen to our incredible speakers from across the world, we were able to continue in our tradition of ensuring the free flow of knowledge and information.
I think the very mention of JLF and the tradition of JLF energizes even when one has no live audience before one, when one is interacting, one still remembers. There's a deep memory of what the JLF has brought us over the years, and that is with us even when we are sitting at home and talking with just a couple of other persons.
It's wonderful that the Jaipur Literature Festival has responded to the pandemic by continuing to exist.
The Jaipur Literary Festival obviously is one of the most iconic literary festivals in the world, and they've done a great job.
Arriving virtually seems like a wonderfully sort of egalitarian and democratic thing to be able to do.
India has always had a tradition of performed and spoken literature as well as written literature. There are two, in a sense, different ways of imbibing literature. One is the written word, whether on stone or in an epigraph or on a book, on a page. But there's also always been this long tradition of oral recitation of work, whether in ancient Sangam performances at the courts of Tamil Nadu, or whether in the mushairas of the Mughal court. And today, I think, in many ways, we're fulfilling that function, allowing authors to perform their work. But there's also this thing of having rational debate.
As we look ahead to the Jaipur Literature Festival 2021, bringing together a slew of incredible writers and speakers from across the world, we know we have a challenge. We will try and convey the same energy by shooting at Diggi Fort and Diggi Palace in Jaipur and bringing to you some of the most spectacular sessions that we've coined.
I still wear the scarf that I was given at the Jaipur Literary Festival because it brings back a memory of those joyous book-loving crowds, the wonderful other writers from around the world. I've never had another experience like it.
When I was last at the Jaipur Literature Festival, I inhaled so much goodness that I'm still working through it, and I miss it when I think about it.
So I get invited to festivals all over the world, and by far this is one of my favorite.
These are the greatest writers of our day on your screen for free at the Jaipur Literature Festival.
We need your support, especially now. We look forward to you joining us online for the Jaipur Literature Festival digital version.
मुश्किल समय में हमें आपके सपोर्ट की सख्त जरूरत है।
आपका सहयोग हजारों की जिंदगी बचा सकता है।
आप हमारे अपने हो, हमें अपनों से डोनेशन नहीं काम चाहिए।
हमारा हाथ थामिए,
हमारा साथ चलिए,
हमें और हमारी कला को जिंदा रखने के लिए
अपना सहयोग दीजिए।
लोगों ने सालों से प्यार दिया, सम्मान दिया, अब हमारे कारीगरों को काम दीजिए।
Support the artisans, save the craft.
I'm fascinated by the impermanence of experiences and especially unremarkable, unnoticed moments. Ordinary enough by themselves, but now these freeze frames mean light, conjunction and mood and take on a completely new interpretation. I'm a content creator / producer. My first book was published in 2018 and this is my second. It is an art poetry collaboration with Neil Daswani, my photographs and his poetry.
I like to describe myself as a banker by day and a poet by night. For me, 2020 was a busy purple patch. I produced and published 3 separate volumes of poetry, leading on to a 4th collaborative work with Anita Thomas titled Camera and Quill.
I would send Neil a photograph and each time he would reply with a poem. Very soon we had a book.
Hiding in the tall and golden grass, the marksman slowly sets his sights. He lets the stirring wind blow past. His shots ring out as though one by one he snuffs out suns and makes the sudden dark descend. Perhaps to himself he still pretends that he truly shot out all the lights. I would look to you for cues, but you never made a sound. You never gave me any clues, though I'd flap my arms around. I shared with you my every dream, but then you never said a word. Since I'm not allowed to scream, I guess my anguish went unheard. Now I'll signal to you by semaphore and you'll tilt your tonsured head. You know, I wanted you so much more, but now all my love for you is dead. White wings welded in the light add power to his thrust and flight. As he rises up to rejoin the skein, to flock together as a team again, as a canopy to the goose in front, no one bird ever takes the brunt. Each wingman was a leader once, the wedge is all but happenstance. White muletta whirling in wind and air, standing rock steady against the tide, threshing through waves as if to dare fish to jump out from where they hide. Spring cleaning the carpet of the sea, he flails at its fabric with his thresh, smoothens out folds so he can free, then coax all creatures to his mesh. Camera and quill represents the coming together of two distinct and separate forms of art. And for both Anita and myself, we found that the true power of camera and quill lay in the synthesis.
13 years of a tumultuous Jaipur Literature Festival filled with joy, with colour, with the vibrancy and the sheer love of knowledge and literature.
The Jaipur Literature Festival is actually, it's set a benchmark in terms of where Literature Fest ought to be.
लोगों को लगता है कि यहाँ आना और इस तरह से एक ऑथर को सुनने के लिए बहुत लोग घंटों खड़े रहते हैं, तो इससे पता चलता है कि अभी भी नॉलेज का जो चाहत है वो अभी खत्म नहीं हुई है.
We had glamour, we had fun, we had joy, we had anger, we had protest. What in the Sanskrit tradition is called the Navras, where every human emotion is reflected upon.
When I come to the Jaipur Literature Festival, I feel like I walked in to a 3-star Michelin restaurant with absolutely no problem of bank balance. There's quality, there's quantity, and it's from all over the globe.
And then came the pandemic, which brought to a screeching halt the entire world. We decided that we wouldn't allow the pandemic to stop us in our tracks. And out of this was born JLF's Brave New World.
In these times during COVID, when we're all sitting at home, it's sort of like a ray of light that we get to watch these amazing sessions when we can't all be together. It certainly brightens up my evenings.
आज पेंडेमिक में हम डिजिटली जयपुर लिटरेचर फेस्टिवल कर रहे हैं और मुझे लगता है कि हमारे सामने श्रोता नहीं है, हम आपस में बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उस फील को, उस उमंग को महसूस कर सकते हैं कि हजारों लाखों लोग हमसे जुड़े हुए हैं, हमको सुन रहे हैं और कहीं ना कहीं कोई एक सार्थक हस्तक्षेप हो रहा है.
160 episodes later and 4.8 million views, people who came online to view and listen to our incredible speakers from across the world, we were able to continue in our tradition of ensuring the free flow of knowledge and information.
I think the very mention of JLF and the tradition of JLF energizes even when one has no live audience before one, when one is interacting, one still remembers. There's a deep memory of what the JLF has brought us over the years, and that is with us even when we are sitting at home and talking with just a couple of other persons.
It's wonderful that the Jaipur Literature Festival has responded to the pandemic by continuing to exist.
The Jaipur Literary Festival obviously is one of the most iconic literary festivals in the world, and they've done a great job.
Arriving virtually seems like a wonderfully sort of egalitarian and democratic thing to be able to do.
India has always had a tradition of performed and spoken literature as well as written literature. There are two, in a sense, different ways of imbibing literature. One is the written word, whether on stone or in an epigraph or on a book, on a page. But there's also always been this long tradition of oral recitation of work, whether in ancient Sangam performances at the courts of Tamil Nadu, or whether in the mushairas of the Mughal court. And today, I think, in many ways, we're fulfilling that function, allowing authors to perform their work. But there's also this thing of having rational debate.
As we look ahead to the Jaipur Literature Festival 2021, bringing together a slew of incredible writers and speakers from across the world, we know we have a challenge. We will try and convey the same energy by shooting at Diggi Fort and Diggi Palace in Jaipur and bringing to you some of the most spectacular sessions that we've coined.
I still wear the scarf that I was given at the Jaipur Literary Festival because it brings back a memory of those those joyous book-loving crowds, the wonderful other writers from around the world. I've never had another experience like it.
When I was last at the Jaipur Literature Festival, I inhaled so much goodness that I'm still working through it, and I miss it when I think about it.
So I get invited to festivals all over the world, and by far this is one of my favorite.
These are the greatest writers of our day on your screen for free at the Jaipur Literature Festival.
We need your support, especially now. We look forward to you joining us online for the Jaipur Literature Festival digital version.